In this mini lesson, we will be introducing the idea of planes, going over some vocabulary and notation associated with planes, and there'll be a little mini quiz at the end, and you'll be submitting your questions and answers online for that. Let's begin by going over some important definitions. So first of all is the definition of a plane. A plane is a flat two-dimensional surface. So if you look in the picture to the right of the definition, this is actually a picture of two different planes. And you can see right here where the planes intersect, and all planes intersect along a line. So if you look up and you look at a point in the room, wherever you are right now, if you look at where the wall and the ceiling meet, if you imagine that wall and ceiling going on forever, that place where they meet would be like the line where two planes intersect. All right, going on to our next definition. Now, this is a word that you have heard by now, and it's the word collinear. But just to review that vocabulary, collinear means on the same line. So if you look at the picture to the right, points A, B, and C are collinear. They're on the same line, whereas points D and E are neither collinear to each other, nor are they collinear to A, B, and C. So collinear is a relationship that means things that are on the same line or used to describe those things. All right, our last definition is going to be really similar to collinear, but the word is coplanar. So just like collinear means on the same line, coplanar means on the same plane. If you look at the picture to the bottom right, you can see these points in the plane, point P, R, S, Q. Those points are all coplanar. Point T is not coplanar to any of those points. Now, you may notice that there's a little A or alpha symbol out there. That does not represent a point. We know it doesn't because there's not a point near it. We're going to come to that in our next slide. On our previous slide, we defined a plane as a flat two-dimensional surface. So again, in this picture, we have two planes, this light blue plane and this sort of beige plane. And you can see the planes have different points on them. You can see the beige plane actually has a line that goes through it, line FG. And then you can see the blue and beige plane share a point D, and there's an angle EDC. Part of the angle lies on the blue plane. We could call that ray DC. The other part on the beige plane. So what we want to think about is how do we name a plane? And there's really two ways we're going to talk about. One is that we could name a plane by using a letter that is not a point on the plane. So for example, if I look at the beige plane, I notice up in the top right corner, there's a Y hanging out there by itself. That Y is not a point. We know it's not a point because there isn't a point next to it. So we could call this plane, plane Y. Additionally, the same is true on the blue plane. We could call that plane Z. So that is one way to name a plane. The next way to name a plane is similar to how we name an angle, but we have to be really careful here that we use the right notation. So we could also name a plane by using 3 points that are coplanar but are not collinear. And we'll look at why that is with a non-example. So let's start with an example. We could name our beige plane. We could name that plane, plane EDG. And again, that would be in reference to the beige plane. So plane EDG. Now, if you look, points E and D are collinear. However, the third point, G, does not lie on the same line or line segment, or in this case, ray, that E and D lie on. So I can draw a line through E and D. However, G is not on that line. We can name that plane that way. Let's look at the blue plane for a second. We could name the blue plane plane A, D, C. Now, the order of these points does not matter, so we could call it CAD. The order doesn't matter. What does matter is that the letters are all that we use exactly 3 points. All right, so we said ADC or CAD, and if we look again, points A and D, they are coplanar to each other. That's okay. But what's important is that all 3 points, and excuse me, they're coplanar. I meant to say they're collinear. They're both. It matters that all 3 points are not collinear. So it's okay that the points A and D we chose are collinear, but it's important that C isn't. Now I could have also named this plane CAB or CDB. However, I cannot name the blue plane ADB or any combination of these 3 collinear points. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is if you look at the plane, that A, D, and B, they all lie on the line where the 2 planes intersect. So if I asked you which plane is ADB, you wouldn't be able to tell me because those 3 points are on both the beige and the blue plane. So we use at least 1 point that's not collinear to the other 2 so that it's less confusing. All right, we are going to try some true or false practice questions. You're going to be prompted in a moment to type in whether they are true or false. It's multiple choice. I'm just going to read the questions out loud and then you'll be prompted to answer. So the first question is true or false that points A, B, and C are collinear. The second question, true or false, points A, B, and C are coplanar. Question 3, true or false, point F lies on DE. Question 4, true or false, line DE lies on plane DEF. Question 5, true or false, line BD and line DE intersect. And then lastly, question 6, true or false, line BD is the intersection of plane ABC and plane DEF. You might want to pause the video for a moment, write your answers to those 6 questions down, and then you'll be prompted in just a moment to type in your answers. All right, by now you've submitted your answers, and I just want you to be able to check yourself. If you look at the bottom, your answers are down here. So statement 1 was false, statement 2 is true, 3 is false, 4 is true, 5 is true, 6 is true. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the lesson. Great job.